My name is Ewan Denny, and welcome to the Ewan Denny Show. Hi there, my name is Ewan Denny, and welcome to another edition of the Ewan Denny Show. You know this show is about success and achievement, and you know from time to time I bring you really outstanding guests who have contributed in some way to the wider society, who have achieved great things in their personal lives or in their career, be it in the sporting arena or in politics or in the church world and so on. So again, I've got another guest for you. This time it's a serial businessman, an entrepreneur. We like to have those on our shows because many of our viewers are people aspiring to set up their own businesses and to learn from those who's done something in this area. So today I've got somebody who is a personal friend of mine as well. His name is Mr. Calvin King. So let me welcome him to the show. Calvin, hi there. Long time no see, my friend.
Yes, long time no see. Thank you very much for that introduction there, Al. I hope I can live up to it.
Humble as always. Well, yeah, we go back a long time. So I know you from your background in sales and marketing. I know some of the jobs you've had and the things that you've done. And you've come up with a concept, an organization called EBony Class Club, and I want to get into that. But first, I want the viewers to know a little bit about you, who you are and all the rest, where you've come from and so on. So let's start from there. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm Guyanese born, and I came here to the UK when I was about 3, and I've been here since. My journey into the sales world started almost 30 odd years ago when I used to sell high-end men's retail. But unfortunately, I got stabbed by a shoplifter, and I decided that I wasn't going to do anything more on the high street.
Actually, you mean literally stabbed?
Yeah, I still got the mark here.
Oh, wow.
My shoulder, but yeah.
Wow.
And since then, I decided to, just go into the open office scenario in the city and other places. And I entered the, I started really as a chef. I worked for Michael Caine for about 5 years at Langhams Brasserie as an hors d'oeuvre veg chef. And, because it was a popular restaurant, no one really wanted to move out. So there was no progression in my career there, so I decided then to eke out another opportunity for myself in financial services. So I spent almost 10 years in financial services with three of the leading organisations: Liberty Life, Irish Life, and there was one other, but the name escapes me, Victoria.
So in the latter years, you've been working on this concept of Ebony Class Club, but before that, it was something else. Describe that to us.
Well, yeah, actually, Ebony Class Club was born out of frustration, actually. I had, 20 odd years ago, designed a smartphone, folding smartphone. And what I wanted to do, and the reason I got to that concept is that I used to run one of the top business travel magazines in the UK, which is Travel Plus. And I started there as a young salesman and ended up as the sales director and then almost taking over the company. But I moved on, and at that time everything was on print. But I was advising key CEOs around the UK on how to merge their digital devices. Because nothing was standardized in those days. That experience led me then, when I left Travel Plus, to work on, well, where do I go next? And I then realized that there was an opportunity that I then jumped on with both hands, and that was basically designing the filofax of that day into a digital filofax. So rather than you have the pages, I wanted those pages to then become the screens. And a number of companies and a number of individuals got around me, liked the idea, and it never came to much because of the venture capitalist agents not turning up because it was his son's half-term holiday. Whilst we sat around the boardroom of the Rover Group, 24 odd companies, waiting for this gentleman. So anyway, that was scuppered. 7 years later, I got offered 25 million, November 2007 for the idea, and as it went through due diligence, the 2008 financial market crash came and hit me then. So I scuppered that deal and passed the plan across to Dubai, who'd been looking at it for a few years. And I felt frustrated that they hadn't moved on it, whilst at the same time, the Samsung's now rolled out theirs. Apple's now rolling out theirs. LG's now rolling out theirs. So I was well ahead of the marketplace. So what I decided to do is I felt that the Black Lives Matter movement meant a lot to me. I've suffered many of what has been described out there in public against my person. And I decided to take the platform that I had originally designed for the folding smartphone and integrate it into a new offering. And that new offering is called EBony Class Club, but E-Class Club for short. And I can see that Mercedes have been chasing the name for the last 15 years, and I'm holding on to it through thick and thin. But the EBony Class Club basically is a platform to promote black businesses, business and lifestyle globally. And at the same time, the focus really is for debates and forums so that we can have our community achieve those objectives of self-sufficiency. We spend over, in the UK alone, we spend over 305 billion, according to the IPA. And for me, I don't see much for that 305 billion. So I thought, well, let me create a platform, a one-stop platform that and invite the community as well as the business world, our black business world, to then come on board and start the dialogue.
Is this, Calvin, is this...
And because...
Yeah, Calvin, sorry to interrupt you. Is this specifically about black-owned businesses trading and doing work with black customers, so the money remains within the black community? Is that the concept behind it?
Well, that is the original concept behind it, but I felt that I had to address the wider community also. It wasn't that we wanted to leave out the other nations. What we wanted to do was to make sure our nation took care of ourselves. And in so doing, I wanted to support black businesses, not necessarily black businesses doing business with black consumers, but I wanted to support understand the logic behind it's black manufacturing and the like. However, my research tells me that because I've been to China, most of the stuff has been outsourced to China across the world. So what I found was that a lot of our black inventors and fashion designers, they're coming up with some great ideas. And not only have they come up with some great ideas, they've been trending for years and been hidden in the back, from Hollywood all the way through. So I've managed to locate a number of them and made them aware of the platform. And over the last few days, I've had some brilliant calls. One today wanted to sponsor our executive club, and they deal only with A-listers in the States. Right. And they're a black-owned company. So it's happening the way I envisaged it to happen, but it's happening almost organically, and the word's getting around out there that perhaps people should jump on this. I'm getting so many followers coming in from the States at the present moment, all brands, all mid to high end brands coming in and saying they're following me. And, all I've done is posted that this is what I'm doing on this day and for this reason. And everyone gets it.
That's good. That's good. Your communication skills, I know, has always been good. I knew you from Travel Plus, which you mentioned a short while ago. So, we go way back then. You was always a very, very good salesperson then anyway. So I'm not surprised where you are now and the appeal of your offer, as it were, without actually doing anything, just posting it, just saying what you're doing. But just to go back a bit, because a large part of this program is educational. And for those people who are thinking about setting up a business, here they're looking at you in the retail industry, working for other people and so on. And then suddenly, here you are today, a chief executive. You came up with your own concept, your own product, and now you're going to launch it and so on. What was that journey from being in that shop, working in retail, to where you are now?
Well, I can tell you, I've met, and my wife alone said, I've got to write your book. Please let me write your book, because it hasn't been easy. From since I was 13, I was in a group, and that group was signed to ATV. So we were signed before Lenny Henry on ATV, and unfortunately we had one of the same contracts like George Michael, and so I knew what George Michael was going through when he was contesting that contract. And from there onwards, when that never happened, stardom never came, but it was just the door, just around the corner. I then, I drifted through retail, I drifted through finance, I drifted. And at that time, I really just wanted to do my music. So it was really frustrating. When I started getting into more technical selling and how sales were being done, what I was experiencing was a hell of a lot of racism in most of the offices that I have, most of the theatres, I call it, that I've managed to place myself. And it was only fortunate for me that my training actually came from Dale Carnegie. And at Dale Carnegie, what I was trained to observe was the leaders of industry would sit around the table and they would talk about all their frustrations. And I was fortunate to be a very good listener at that time and keep my mouth shut. And what I realized is that at that time I was a field salesman in finance. So I would doorstep everyone on the high street and I'd bring them in. My manager used to be amazed that I'm bringing people in from the newspaper stand and they're signing up for pensions, this, that, the other. And I also then went into telesales. And at Dale Carnegie, I used to learn that all the CEOs would only allocate an hour or two for a sales pitch. And that hour was at 10 o'clock through to just before 12 o'clock. And that knowledge I kept with me and never shared it. And not sharing it allowed me then to use my experience of financial services. And in financial services, it's more ethical. It's a win-win situation. There's something for the client. Otherwise, all I was doing was helping this company rip off that customer. And when I bumped into that situation, so yeah, there's been a lot of frustration for almost 20, 30 years.
Did you ever, because for many black people, when they come up with all these frustrations, doors, closing their faces, send off 100 CVs, don't get a reply, and all the other things we know about racism in this country and so on. Did you ever feel one day like giving up?
Yeah, I of all people, when I felt that I wanted to give up, I always tried to remember my mantra was winners never quit.
Yeah, I know that phrase.
And I used to have to tell myself that all the time when I came right to the edge of things, and I said, King, you've been there, you've done it, and you've done it on your own. You can do it again. Yeah. It was just mental state is what I realized was very important. And what I realized also that people's mental state was being attacked. And the reason for this type of design of my website, I called it a club specifically because I wanted to avoid the noise. I think there's a lot of information overload in the marketplace. And I realized that when I see people scrolling, they're scrolling, and they don't realize that there's a lot of information that they've passed there that had they just sat down with it and, piecemeal taken it in, it probably would have taken them to where they wanted to be. But they don't know that because they've just done all of that. So I realized that something different to the marketplace. After looking at the marketplace, I realized that half of the organizations that are in the marketplace came from my stable. So it doesn't matter whether it's Blacklinks or UK this or UK that, they all came from my stable way back in selling advertising. Yeah. So I didn't fear any of them because fortunately at Travel Plus, I ended up with the guy who sponsored most of the businesses in publishing. So what happened for me was I was very fortunate, and at that time he said to me, "I fund all of them, Calvin," and then I knew I arrived.
Yeah.
It was at that point I realized I'd arrived.
Yeah.
But arriving wasn't enough. Although I was making a load of money for the company, and I took it to number 3 in the UK Business Travel League on my own. I was the only salesman in the room. But it took me a year to do that. It took me 6 months to turn the company from a 4-page in-flight publication in Economist. And Economist went around the world in those planes. But this particular company and this particular director left half of the data of the world in a room and only used the UK part because of the way he wanted to do things. And the reason I was installed in the company is because money wasn't showing on the books, but a lot of money was going in. So when they put me in and I turned it around within 6 months, they then teamed me up with one of the top editors in this country now, which is Mike Toynbee. Mike Toynbee now runs the top business travel corporate publication, but he would never have been across there had I not resigned, because him and I were like Batman and Robin. And we've often discussed who was Batman and who was Robin, but but that's the story. I mean, there was pushback, and so I've got a story to tell, but I've also got a job to do, and I'd throw my hat in this ring because I realise I sit down with a lot of the knowledge that a lot of them don't know about.
So part of your journey, part of your audience is to tell other people, aspiring up and coming people, as well as your peers,
yes,
the road, because you've demonstrated resilience, patience, long suffering, never give up, never say die attitude, and all those qualities that makes a leader. And you've obviously through your journey arrived at a place now where you can look back at all that and see yourself as being solid, as being strong, as being determined, as being, established, as it were. Even though some of the things that you have in mind are still your goals, you haven't achieved them yet, but you're very confident and sure of yourself, and you know your marketplace, and you know your customers. And so that drive and ambition along with that is going to make you the success you obviously are.
Yeah. What I found was, especially in Travel Plus, I don't want to harp on about this, but what I did say to Travel Plus when I entered the company is I said, this company's missing a heartbeat. There was no pulse. And so I realized today that if I don't put that pulse into my company, it will be non-existent, because I've realized every call that I've made, I've received positive feedback. Now that's against the competition. And people are saying, oh, Calvin's bootstrapping that organization, and he's got a few quid in his pocket, and he's doing this, he's doing that. But Calvin's always had a few quid in his pocket and still turned the world around. So that didn't faze me. What I felt was that we do need leaders, And often used to say to myself, why don't someone do this? And why don't someone do that? And then I realized one day, if I throw the pebble in the water, then I can create those ripples.
Yeah.
And so I got up and I said, you do it. And when I decided to do it, things changed.
Yes.
You know, for the better and for everybody else. One thing, the director turned around to me in Travel Plus one time. He says, you've got Calvin to thank for saving your jobs. Now I was saving 4 or 5 people's jobs with the money I was bringing in. You know, and when he turned around and said that to me, I said, wow, King, look where you've come from, look what you've been through, and now you're saving people's jobs. But I still never had the director title. I'm still sales director. I'm still behind because they thought that if they took me off the sales desk, then the company would fail. So they wouldn't put me as a director.
Yeah.
And that's what I suffered.
Yeah.
So now, you know, I've given myself that role today. But I know it's a very important role. I know that this whole concept is actually bigger than me because the BLM cries across the world. And the BLM support from outside our community is so moving that it moved me to say, you know what, bye-bye Dubai, I'm on this.
Yeah.
Because our people, our youths in particular, needs a future. Now, what I saw and what I've learned from some of the top entrepreneurs in the country is that they've said, we've got a window of opportunity. And that's between October and November of this year before the whole world changes on us. And I knew that a number of months ago. And I said to people, I said, you know what? I think there's going to be a second lockdown. And I think that we've only got an opportunity between October and November. When I heard it from top entrepreneurs, I realized that I was right.
Yeah.
And what it means to our community is that they need to try and at least get on board. They were very network, and it was outside of my social global marketer. He says, never rely on your social network. Don't you ever market to them because they will never buy from you.
Wow.
And when I started doing that, all of a sudden, I was getting droves of brands come in. In fact, I didn't even go to them. All I did was post, this is what I'm doing, and this is when I'm doing it. And then I kept supporting that post. What I did is a concept like, I think it was BT or British Gas used to do some time ago. Has anyone seen Sid?
I remember that.
So that's what I ran with. I thought to myself, let me just leave some subliminal messages all the way, every week up until I launch and give them the full Monty then. And just let them know that I'm watching.
Yeah. Talking about timescales and the window of opportunity that you just described, what is the timetable that you have in mind for the launch of EBony Class Club?
Well, what we're doing with EBony Class Club is we don't want to make any errors. So what we decided to do is we're doing a beta test in beginning of end of October, beginning of November, and that's basically designed as a festive charged campaign where we have 2 domains. We have the EBony Class Club, which is where our followers, our subscribers can go and commune and with like-minded people, and they will do what they need to do on the site. As far as the suppliers are concerned, suppliers who normally just market or spend their budget for the whole year can actually take an opportunity there and say, okay, well, we'll test you for the year. So I give them that opportunity to be on the site. But we then have a sales page newsletter, which we then market aggressively with our outside marketing partners. Their job is to make sure that my customers, retailers, get eyeballs that has a definite commercial interest in what they're selling.
Okay, actually, I think you know that this show is seen around the world.
Right.
A lot of people that tune in are actually from Africa, the continent of Africa. This is a large place. Bearing in mind this is called EBony Class Club, if someone is tuning in from Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, or wherever, or the Caribbean, or Black British, what would you say to them? What is your pitch? What is your appeal to them? The average black person walking down the streets.
Well, my strap line is your black business and lifestyle marketplace. That's all I put out there. And that's where I've been getting a lot of feedback. A few days ago, the director of the Africa Centre is going to now populate our pages and run a regular seminar, webinar on, Paris fashions and the like. I mean, and with that endorsement, for me, Africa is just another day away in knowing what we're doing. I appeal to Africa in particular. It is about Africa. It is about Africans. But Africa was the Garden of Eden of the world, and a lot of people already know that. I don't need to reiterate that. What we're dealing with is modern fact. The modern fact is, if that's the case, if Africa has been feeding the world for so long, why am I seeing so much begging stories on TV and the same pictures and the same kids suffering? So, I've been to college, I've been to school, I've been to university, and I know that, I'm educated enough to know that something's wrong here, all right? And if something's wrong, can I make a difference? And the only difference I can make is by providing a platform for those Africans that you mentioned, but I do it by offering them certain categories that they can get involved in: business, lifestyle, technology, finance, associations, institutes, wealth creation, e-learning, health, organic in particular. So yeah, I've accommodated, I've made room for all of the key areas that have serious profit centers.
You're also looking for sponsors at this time, or perhaps not?
I will always invite sponsors. There's a place for them. And normally sponsors will come and tell you what they want, and I will tell them if I am happy to sign off on that. So, there are a number of sponsors out there, and yes, I would invite them, but, they've got to come right for the E-Class Club, because E-Class means first class.
I like that. E-Class means first class. And given the journey that you've been on to reach the destination where you are right now, in fact, you probably wouldn't even call it a destination. This is probably just another path along the long road of where you want to get to in life.
This is the formulation stage.
Formulation stage.
This is the formulation stage, because what I'm creating now, if I can create for EBony Class Club what I did for Travel Plus, sky's the limit for our people. Period.
Yes. And in fact, knowing a lot of the schools as I do, because I used to go into schools as a speaker, a motivational speaker, to talk to the students. And I've done so in the Caribbean, I've done so in Africa, and so on. What you actually give off just by talking your story is so inspiring to them, so motivational, that it's going to be of tremendous benefit for you to be able to show your, to demonstrate your story, to tell others about what you've done and where you are. And like your wife said, she could write your story. She knows what you've been through, and the knockbacks and the setbacks and all the rest. And I know some of that too, having known you for over 10 years, where you have been through a lot of things, but yet you've stood the test of time, and you've persevered, you've continued, and you've never given up. And it's always something I've admired about you. And now this latest development in your career, what you want to achieve, is very, very inspiring. So a lot of people, I would hope, having watched this program, heard a bit about you, your background, and what you're doing now, and your motivation as well. I thought that was great how you spoke about Black Lives Matter, what it did for you in terms of its impact on you, and the other things you talked about. Why is someone doing this? Why isn't someone doing that? But then you thought, you know what? I will do something. I think that's great as well. So these messages is what I wanted to come out of this show, because I know that many people look to this program for inspiration, and motivation,
Yes.
because we have people on the program who've achieved something. They've been successful. They've had gold medals around their neck if they're an athlete.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they're a bishop or an apostle in the church, or they're a
Yes.
top businessman somewhere and so on. So these are the people that appear on the show, and the feedback has been that when people watch it, they're greatly encouraged. So thank you for coming on the show. If somebody wanted to track your story and to see how things are moving, developing, and all the rest, what should they do?
Well, what they should do now is start to take note of the domains eclassclub.com and ebonyclassclub.com, and they will be able to track me. All of my information, my profile is on there, my LinkedIn is on there, my Twitter is on there, my WhatsApp is on there, my Facebook is on there. So they'll get a 360 degree of Calvin King.
Excellent, excellent. We'll have also that information on the screen as well. But thank you for your time today. I know you're a very busy man. I will let you go off now and continue to run your organization and make it what we hope it to be. Thank you for coming, Calvin. I'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Kat.
All right. And that concludes
Thank you
another
very
edition
much
of
for
the
the
Ewan Denny
invitation.
Show. Thank you for tuning in, and see you again soon.